It's a gnarly spot.
What, the elbow?
This one right here.
Yeah, a little bit. I'll take this any day over the leg though. I don't know what it was about that leg. Oh my god, that one was the worst one. Like, I think I'd rather do my arms 10 times over.
Yeah, the back of the leg is insane.
It's critical, man. That one was brutal. Like I don't know if I told you, but I was sore for days. Because my whole body was like cramping up.
Yeah.
Oh my god, for like a
the
whole
last
week.
session, yeah.
Yeah, for a week I was sitting there like, I'm so sorry, I don't want to do anything.
And that's the worst part, because you just have to let it heal. There's really no way you
Exactly.
could go around it. And it's just one of those things that you just have to kind of get through
Yeah.
and make sure that the tattoos healed up well, you know?
Yeah, that's why I told myself if I decide to do the next leg, which I probably will,
Uh-huh.
I'm doing small pieces. We're gonna have to do that little the patchwork.
Uh-huh.
I can't do that. I can't sit for another like 6-7 hours like that. I was like, dying.
Kapag nagustuhan nila yung isa, ate ko siguro may dalawa. Tatlo. Kasi meron siya dito. Meron sa leg.
Yeah, the leg is always a make or break type of situation for deciding on a tattoo, because the moment that you have some sense of trauma on the leg, that's it. You know, you don't want to go back and get it done again and again. It takes you at least 2 years to even deal with the trauma and then go back at it.
That's why I was looking for the numbing cream, but I didn't know which one to buy. There was like so many different types, and I was like, I don't think any of these are probably gonna be good. If anything, they might make me swell up. If anything, might ruin the tattoo.
There are numbing creams that work. I've used some of them. Some of them last like 5 hours, and it doesn't damage or create any type of reaction on the skin. But very specific though, it has to be very specific.
It's a small pattern lang.
I can send you links on where to buy it, just so that the amount of pressure on your sternum is just the thing.
I think for me, I think the like when we did my arm, the closer that we got to my armpit, for some reason I felt the nerves in my collarbone like tightening up, and that was the only uncomfortable part. But it wasn't painful, but it was more like an uncomforting sensation. I don't know. I feel like I'd be able to handle the titty area, but that center section is probably gonna hurt.
Like the sternum,
Actually, see, Dave,
is one of those areas that's always like high level of pain.
Yeah.
And you can't avoid it. If you're crossing through that sternum area, you really have to.
Yeah, the one I want, the piece that I want is literally down the sternum and out and spread out. it though.
Eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, maganda pa ang topic.
What they say, no guts, no glory.
I always tell people here in the shop, it's painful to be cool.
Yeah, seriously.
To be cool, yeah, it goes with something, you know?
Ganda. Ayun na lang parang hindi pa kami, parang okay pa siya sa akin. Oh my God, like 15 years ago na siguro. Simula na yung really fascinating. It's like 35 na kami. So, pass away ko na yung
You got it done in one sitting.
Seriously, I think honestly, I still wouldn't do another size that piece, a piece that size.
Yeah.
Ang pag naman ako, dapat kasi ako doon. Hindi ka na-pressure yung pag ako yung youngest eh. Sabi ko ay.
And I've had my appendix burst, and I don't even think it was that painful. To be quite honest, because I was so drugged up after my appendix burst. Like, you know, like you go through like major surgery and stuff, like it's painful, but you're on drugs most of the time, so it's nothing like too bad. You just feel groggy and like every when you move, you just ache. You're just like, ugh. But like all the morphine numbs the pain.
Except on this process, there's really
You can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
You gotta say it.
gotta,
Gotta take it.
there's nothing there except going through it.
Exactly.
And eventually, if you stop, you still have to go through it at some point. So you know, it really gets to a point where there's no. The only way to finish it is to get through it.
You know what else I don't understand? I know some people actually when they get their tattoos they say, oh yeah, we're gonna go get drunk or whatever, or get high or do something before the tattoo in order to like make the pain go away. And I was like, wouldn't that make it worse?
It would.
The alcohol makes you bleed more.
Mhm.
It loosens up the blood.
And depending on what you're taking too.
Exactly.
Like I had people actually come in here and you know they were sober and then eventually they realized that oh you know I gotta smoke some type of blunt just to get through this session and next thing you know they don't realize that you know they end up feeling the whole thing because
More.
they're focusing on it so
Yeah.
much more. And I was like, dude, you could have just asked me, you know, if it was a good idea or not. Because imagine this, the tattoo machine, most tattoo machines now are run at 8,000 rounds per minute. And imagine you're feeling the whole thing one by one, like really, really slow.
Exactly, man. That's excruciating.
And then they complain, like, why is the machine going so slow? Like, no, you're going so slow, not the machine. Like,
Your brain is moving at like a millisecond.
uh-huh.
Oh man.
Yeah, some of them stop. They just basically stop the session. Like, I can't do it no more. It's like, you know, when's the next session? Like, I tell them, like, yeah, it's the same amount of time that you have to wait for.
Yeah.
You'll be rocking with a unfinished tattoo until then.
You have to wear long sleeves or
Uh-huh.
long pants until
Yeah.
the next couple months. Oh man.
Unless, of course, you have booked up that date already prior to sitting on that session.
Yeah. Man. Rough. I also have a question, man. For the centerpiece, I don't know. I was actually kind of scared, in the sense that how it would look.
Uh huh.
Because right now, you know, I'm trying to go. I went through a little bulking phase. And
Yes.
In a month or so, I'm probably gonna go through like a big cut.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to lose a lot of the weight and shred up a little bit.
Mhm.
But I was also thinking I might need a surgery on my chest.
Uh huh.
But it would the surgery scars would be on the side of
Yeah.
the pectoral muscle.
Mhm.
So would you think it would look weird if we just did the centerpiece and did small little pieces on the side and then we'll fill it in
After the
afterwards?
surgery?
Yeah.
That makes sense. The main thing as well is because we haven't thought of the elements yet. We haven't talked about anything regarding the shape of the tattoo to begin with. But what I normally do for situations like that is the same way as when I would set up a piece on someone who's basically starting off while working out and you know, eventually in 3-4 years they start gaining muscle. So when that happens, I have to be able to already structure in the design based on the muscle movements Like normally when people work out, everything's bulking up from the center, from basically the front part of the body. No one works out and starts with the back. Everyone wants to have that physique look up front.
Yeah.
So the muscles, they tend to bulk up from up front because that's what most people build up, and eventually when their muscles grow, the skin moves. So you'll see in the gym, you'll see a lot of people that have tattoos that are already shaped towards the back because they already have gained the muscle mass, and eventually they'll see all those tattoos geared towards the back. You'll see like some tattoos like already shaped towards the tricep area.
Yeah.
And they're all bulked up already. That's because when they first started working out, the tattoo was right at the center of the arm. So when that happens, it means that if the artist could have just set up the actual design up front, like not center weight but more towards the front part of the body, everything shifts towards the back. So because your muscle grew from up front, so in that way you're able to have some sense of where the tattoo is gonna go.
Yeah.
So when you bulk up in the chest, for example, if we set up everything a little bit towards the middle and make sure that whatever cut you get in the middle will pretty much not bother the design, so everything's gonna look like, well, going forward, once we get that cut, once you get that muscle group set up, everything's gonna look more towards shaping up or cutting through the sides instead of like having one center weight.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, if you're putting a face there, it's not going to be proportional because everything's just completely sectioned towards the middle. But when you do a chest muscle workout, everything's shaped up towards where it cuts through your joints into the actual chest. Then the centerpiece, the sternum area, is the last part that you get that cut from.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with the abs. It's the same way with the V formation on the body. So we have to be able to set it up in a way where it kind of makes sense on when you already have that whole structure shaped up. So it's not complicated. It's just a matter of figuring out what the elements are, and then from there we could pretty much set up everything according to how you want it to look going forward. Like 5 years from now or 3 years from now. And that's the problem with most tattoos being arranged in the stencil sense. That's why for me I have to cut everything portion by portion and not throw in a whole stencil right up front, because I don't want to be limited to just having the paper shape up towards the arm. There's so much contours in the body that you have to be able to kind of work with it, because the body's not a flat piece of paper. You can't just throw in something just like that. You have to be able to kind of section them out, and that's one of the things that I pretty much always do every time I work with different muscle groupings or different placement areas. We'll always have different ways of setting up the design. That's why in most cases, if I have to do like a tribal sleeve, I have to just freehand it, because that's the only way it will work based on the cuts. So a lot of people don't understand that, and they want me to draw a design and make sure that they like the design and stuff like that. So, each person, each body is different, and you can't make me do the Rock's tattoo on you, and you're not as bulked up as the Rock in that sense. Even at the point of him, when he first got the tattoo, he wasn't that big. But then the designer, the artist who actually did that, was able to kind of pinpoint where those muscle groups are, and when he grew to that size, you actually see everything making more sense because it's shaped up according to each muscle group. And that's where it has to be, compared to just throwing in a stencil and then calling it a day and pretending that's gonna look the same way 10 years from now. It's a different process too when you're working with losing weight. Because if you have like if you're trying to lose like 100 pounds, for example, which it's normal to lose 100 pounds now with some of these like workouts and dietary things that's out there. So when you're doing that and you're trying to lose weight, I have me as an artist and throwing a stencil or a design on someone's skin. I have to be able to also address how everything would pretty much get shaped up when you lose those pounds.
Yeah.
So I have to find where the bone structure is, and then from there I have to kind of measure up the amount of body weight or water weight that the person has in a way where I'm able to kind of address how it would make sense if this guy didn't have muscles and how it was just skin and bones,
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the tricky parts, and those are the things that is hard to determine if you're not aware of those little details.
So for me specifically, I was thinking actually for this surgery, if I can get it covered by insurance, because I have gynecomastia. So I have these big lumps right over my pecs. Yeah, even though they're covered by a little bit of fat, it's something I've always had naturally because I used to be a big guy. And I came down to like 170, like a super lean weight back when I was like 18, 19. I cut down super heavy to the point where I had like a little patch of loose skin here.
Yeah.
But I could see like definition of a six pack in my chest.
Yeah.
And I still had the lumps there. And so from that point forth, I knew like these weren't going away, and like with just normal diet and stuff like that. So I was gonna probably look into the surgery and see what they do, but depending on the cost, it's something that I'd be worth it for,
Yeah.
But I didn't know if I was gonna do it in a year from now, and I wanted to do the chest piece come spring,
Yeah.
And that's what I was just trying to see, to plan out, to see maybe if I do the surgery, maybe next year, would the tattoo still look fine? Because I wanted to get the whole chest done completely, but like I don't think it would look bad if it was just pieces, right?
Yeah, piece by piece, we're able to plan out what scale are we going to be working with for each element, and in that way we're able to address that portion specifically where the surgery is going to be. So it's just a matter of really deciding on the scale and the elements, because some elements you can't work with on a really small scale. You have to be able to kind of work around the most scaled up possible details of the design. But in a way, once we're able to determine what the actual elements are, then we're able to kind of cut through the amount of space we're going to be leaving for the actual surgery.
Yeah.
So it's really at a point of just understanding the elements after that. So it's really not that hard to work around with once we have the elements.
How about the back? I know I seen you do one back piece that was insane. This was like 8 sessions or something, but it was like I think the Coliseum one.
Yeah, that actually was I would say like a 4-session process, but at least 8 hours.
Oh, 8 hours.
Yeah. So the main thing for that was being able to structure in those elements properly, just so that it would look like a holistic piece. Because some people would do like an actual back piece, and they either create one whole design all throughout the whole back, or just put cutouts of different images together just to shape up that design. The way I did it was to basically create a scene, so everything looks seamless. If you look at one image, it connects to the background completely, and not look like it was just a montage of images.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I always try to do, create a whole scene, like as if the whole scene was an actual movie. Even if it's not an image from a movie, it kind of looks like a movie as far as the structure, because of the fact that it all connects at some point. Like each image flows in together as a whole design, rather than shaping up the image based on just filling up space.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem when you're just filling up space. Some of the actual perspective and the proportion of it, like each image, they don't flow together.
Yeah.
So some of those images would look too small and some of the images would look bigger, and it doesn't make sense on the perspective sense of things because of the fact that you're dealing with different images with different scaling, and you know, it really does not work as a proper design. It's just a patch up of different things. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at the tattoo you have there, everything is shaped up according to scale. So regardless if you know it was a surreal setup or it's something that's been put together, it almost has the same. They're almost in the same universe. You know,
Yeah.
they're all connected. Compared to like patching up things together just to make sure that it looks something.
Yeah.
Which that's the last thing I'm gonna do. That's why the design process is really important because that's where you determine how the whole thing will look as a whole and not just how it looks because you want to fill in space.
Yeah.
That's why I hate when people say that, you know, I just want to fill up the background with clouds. But then again, there's like one small tiny main element and then everything else is clouds. It's like, it doesn't make sense. You're wasting your own skin by putting in so much of the background rather than work with adding details to the whole design.
Yeah.
So when people actually come here and they tell me to fill in everything with clouds, I'm like, you know, you're wasting your space, you're wasting your real estate. And if you just spend more time finding images, you know, that would work for you and make sense to you, then maybe you have a more solid idea. And sometimes when people do that, sometimes I just have to tell them, no, build up that design. We'll make sure that, you know, your tattoo is not just based on filling up space, but based on an actual story.
Yeah.
You know, like earlier I asked you, like, what's the whole concept for this? I get that it's a journey, sense of idea, but then again, we have to be able to build that story because I think the story is the one thing that would make the actual design stand out more. Yeah, one thing is making it to a point where to you it would make sense already, you know?
Yes.
And it's not a surreal idea that it would only make sense to you. It's not one of those types of paintings that, you know, it only makes sense to the artist. So this is one of those things that you could always kind of depict which image and what part of the story or history it came from that you know, people would actually appreciate as well, rather than, oh, I want this design because it looks cool. So it makes a lot of you're throwing off the whole idea of even putting the tattoo in a specific category of symbolism.
Yeah. See, that's what I love about my arm so far. Like what we did, you know, one represents the more religious side of how I grew up. This one's the more what happened, how I got here, my bloodline. You know, like this is everything that's been like passed down. That's why I told you to highlight the Dominican Republic and Europe because that's where my family comes from.
Yeah. And that's
just
why
highlights that. Yeah, the journey, you know.
I had to ask that because, you know, there's always depth to the story, and when you're not able to present that in the artwork, you're basically, for me, I failed as an artist if we're not able to present the actual story. And you know, we're not just tattooing here; we're creating artwork, and you know, at that point, as an artwork that would last forever on your skin, I have to be able to kind of transcend beyond just doing art or designing something. And even in the process of design, I have to be able to think in matters of depth because you're getting this based on a specific story in a time frame or in history. And if I'm not able to translate that, then you know I failed as a designer.
Yeah.
To be able to put everything together, I have to be able to kind of dig up a little bit of my history of arts background and make sure that we're able to put things together properly without overdoing. And that's one thing too, without overdoing the design. Like you could throw in so many things that won't make sense, or you could put in specific things that would actually tell the story based on how history depicts that actual scenario. Like for example, me choosing the actual handgun or the rifle that the conquistadors used for this whole scene. That was basically the bulk of how they were able to conquer the Americas, basically, or the discovery and the conquest of the Inquisition was basically because of a modern weapon.
Yeah.
Like how Genghis Khan conquered the silk trade was because of the arrow, you know, or the bow and arrow. So stuff like that, part of history that most people don't depict. I have to be able to dig up because that's the only way that those little details will make sense as far as the design is concerned. So I have to ask, like, what's the story behind the design? That's the only way I'm able to really depict it. It's not being like difficult in the process of why I'm asking, but it's more like for the artist to understand what they're doing or what I'm doing. I have to be able to kind of address those little detailings and use that as my tool to create the whole design.
Yeah, I agree.
Now we have a epic piece that we're about to build.
Hell yeah. I agree, man. I think this one's gonna be like top notch.
Yeah.
I don't know which one's gonna be my favorite.
Like each one has its own strengths.
Yeah. You know what I think the worst part is though about getting tattooed?
Sitting down.
No. The feeling afterwards. Like you recover, once you recover and you see what it looks like, you take off the nice patch, you put on the you put on the Aquaphor and you're like sitting there like, man, I want another one. I think that's the worst part.
Yeah.
This is so addictive, I can't lie.
That's why with people who don't have tattoos and they ask me, so what's a good tattoo for someone who's a beginner? And I tell them the same thing, don't even start. Like, yeah, I'm a tattoo artist. I'm telling you right now, don't even start if you don't have tattoos yet. Because the moment you start, you're gonna go crazy with it, and if you don't know how to control yourself, you're just gonna get tattoos everywhere.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're gonna regret the fact that you even got tattoos in places or in areas that you would pretty much don't realize was one big mistake.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be a chronic feeling that you're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, man, I still hide my tattoos sometimes. Even though I love them, and this is like what I've always wanted, I still feel to some extent, when around certain people, where I feel like I have to cover up, just because of the way they're gonna view me. I am scared sometimes, like I can't like with my older grandparents who are like very conservative and stuff like that. Don't have a single piercing, don't have a single this, a single that. I sit there and I'm like, man, how can I sit here? I wear long sleeve t-shirts, a hoodie in 80-degree weather.
and that's I guess that's the most interesting part of the whole process, because yes, not everything is basically acceptable to everyone, but at the end of the day, it really has to be something that's on your skin. Like, I can't not get it, and you can't be at a point that you have to say that, oh, I don't give a shit if people don't like it. It's not that point. It's more like you have to also understand that you're in your own right. You're a professional and you're able to deal with things in a more civil manner. And that's where a lot of people, in a way, get this whole idea that people who have tattoos are rebellious, which is not really like 100% in that same sense of the story, because you have to also understand that all these people who have tattoos, they're basically putting that in their skin as part of their journey, as part of their story. And you can't just put them on a specific stereotype or category. And for them to be able to understand that, you have to be able to kind of present yourself the way you're presenting it, to an older generation, but at the same time, you're not always showing off your tattoo, where you're not. You have to put yourself in. You have to know your place.
Yes.
And most people who know that, they don't even have to show their tattoos until you have nothing else to wear, and that's definitely gonna show. You
Mhm.
can't always wear, like you said, like a hoodie on the 85-degree weather.
Yeah.
I think like tattoos is the way people look at it always depends on who they're looking at.
Yeah.
Like it goes both ways. Like in a way, like for me, for example, I'm a tattoo artist. People barely see my tattoos and they don't trust me because I don't have that much
Yeah.
tattoos.
Message mo ako
It's
pag-
one of the most interesting notions that I put forward. Given the fact that I've been tattooing for a long time, and I've been pretty much at a point where I still don't have that much tattoos that show.
Mhm.
And most people like, hey, you don't have that much tattoo. I can't trust you if you don't have a tattoo, and you're a tattoo artist, which I understand
Mhm.
until they see the work.
Yeah.
it really boils down to that.
Kasi ito yung ginamit ko na hindi siya
Ano naman? May part lang. Minsan, sa right ko. Yung banda dito sa may front. Papuntang middle na. Medyo nakapila ko doon. Oo, parang sana. Pero yung tape, okay naman.
I like this whole monsoon situation on the palm trees.
Yeah, I think it's a great addition.
It basically tells you about a tropical environment, and plus we have some type of movement also.
Yeah.
This whole idea.
Pero still, hindi ako naiyak tulad ng Freddy. Alam mo yun? Oo. Freddy para restriction. Kasi parang feeling, ang tulis nung thread parang feeling ko, may chances na makat yung dito mo yung Chris. Ang Chris.
3 times talaga na I tried to get it, but hindi ko talaga siya makikita.
Paano mo kiniglin yung eyebrows mo? Actually, siya yung
Pag may time ako natuklaw.
Yeah, ako din. Pero pa isa-isa lang, para lang to look clean.
Pag may isa, dalawa,
Na medyo mahaba. Na-busy mo.
pero pag marami na,
Shit na yan. reminder. Thank you.
Ano sa kalayo niyo.
Saan mo gusto dito? Sa may live? Pag sa camera, pinakita yung redness.
Oo. Saan yung layer?
The only challenge here is figuring out what the inside space should look like, you know?
Oh yeah, man. I've still been thinking about it. I was like, what am I gonna put in there?
So,
That one you're gonna have to help me with.
The way I chose the images is more like a general idea of the elements that works with the whole journey theme, but at the same time, it's the choice of structure that makes it different, you know?
Yeah.
So now we have to still put the whole concept of personalizing it just so that we could customize each piece based on that structure.
Wash lang ako, Karen.
Absolutely.
sa chin. So, message me kapag hindi tayo machine na sa eyeliner. Consider na. Magkano yung sa charging sa eyeliner?
For now, my formula lang for this year, it's gonna be 50.
Ako 50.
And then next year, more is the
Mas expensive kasi sa mas
yeah.
complicated. Mas may pa kayo as a labor.
No. Nung price na binigay ko is yung starting. But actually, I've increased it sa mga new clients.
Siyempre. Alright, thank you. See you.
Sige.
Regards kay Erica.
Sige. See you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ay, pwede naman ito bang direct?
Depende sa mo.
Oo.
Sige po.
Oo. Kanan.
Ganun. Okay lang.
Oo, pwede rin. Ay, move lang kamay that way.
Left?
Left.
Ganun.
Sige pa. Oo, kana.
Nalagay ko ano?
Unsa? Unsa man?
Yung subtitles.
Nice subtitles?
Ano?
I think na for sure ko na katong murag katong pangan ba setup.
Kung ka pala sa nag-start with that?
130.
Ha? Pag-start mo? Bilis ako
Oo. Pero halos wala akong lupoy di-shoot sa ako until napurma na gamay.
So, ang sugod-sugod.
Kailangan na ko yung usapang lighting. fact that this the whole imagery of this page is more towards the darker tone. It kind of gives a contrast between the other sleeve.
Yeah, I know. This one's like let's say like a Harry's like the fake choir music in it, and then this one's like there's still a lot of fucked up shit going on.
It's like you have to have that balance, you know.
Yeah, exactly. One's light, one's dark. You know, that's what I like. I like how you see both sides. You know.
Yeah.
The yin and yang, you would say.
You have, in a way too, you have to understand that not everything is that you see is pretty much on the lighter side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole Spanish Inquisition, the conquistadors, they were all stories of conquest and death and violence, and that's one thing that most people don't emphasize on
because they're not depicted that way. Like look at the Vikings. The Vikings are depicted as brutal killers, but so are the conquistadors. They just had a fancy way of going about it.
I think nothing in history that deals with conquest is pretty much dealt with like peace, love, and unity.
Oh, never. Not even today.
No.
We still have people fighting over land.
It's insane.
I was talking to one of my coworkers who's explaining to me what was going on in the Middle East between India and all the other Middle Eastern countries and how they all hate each other. And I was like explaining to me why, like what happened. They were like, no, they just one doesn't like the other doesn't like the other, and they just kill each other for no mindless reasons because they don't like each other. I'm like, man, we still doing this? Like,
yeah, you'll be surprised how many countries out there are still at that point of a medieval mindset.
Exactly.
I think that will never change because you can't. With some cultures, you can't really say that they're wrong or whatever. That's their culture. That's something that they've been doing or seeing for thousands of years. That's what they're doing, and to them it's not wrong. It's just the way it is.
Sad, man.
And we're over here thinking that they're doing things wrong, but to them they're thinking that we're doing things wrong.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of understanding each point of view. Like we're also concerned about like the little details of life, and to them the only thing that they worry about is having to find food somewhere, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you're worried about what outfit we gotta pick out for the day.
Yeah. And some of these guys are dealing with where they're gonna hide because they're in a violent environment. We don't see it that way. We only see things the way it was presented to us. Ate mas balay? Or... Okay. got the smoke effect going. Bye.
Bye, have a good one.
Bye. Have a good one. Take it easy.
Let me know in between. Can I take a break as well?
No, I'm good for now. Just reposition, man. I'm slipping. quick question.
Yeah.
Would you mind if my girlfriend just stopped by for a little bit?
Yeah.
She just wanted to introduce herself. I remember I told you she was interested in being a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
She just kind of wanted just to see what's going on, you know, see what it's like, just
For
for
sure,
a little
yeah.
second. She's been talking to me about it. You know, she's at the point where she's trying to decide what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like stuck between either doing tattooing or getting into animal care. And she's kind of like at a medium where these are the two things she's passionate about, but she doesn't know which one she really wants.
The main thing is having to see already what you want to do. You know, at the end of the day, what you want to do is always going to be there.
Yeah.
You could do both.
Yeah.
You know. I've always been an advocate that you're able to do anything that you want to do if you just know how to organize your schedule.
Exactly. Yeah. Listen, I don't think you need a licensing to own the tattoo shop. You gotta hire the people to do the tattoos that need the licensing.
You have to have a business permit to be able to operate a tattoo shop. The license is for the artists to be able to operate in your studio.
And how much does that cost usually?
It really varies where you get it, depending as well on what state. Here in New York City, you just have to go to the Department of Health and then figure things out from there. The hardest part is finding people to work in your studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why? Because everybody's more
Because you
personal based?
You can't trust people just like that, especially in this industry. You gotta look for responsible people to work with. Because remember, this is basically a minor surgery situation, and if the people working in your business are people who don't care at all what happens to the business, then yeah, you're better off not even setting up a business, you know?
Yeah.
Even when I get apprentices, I have to be able to know how much I've trained them first and understand how long they need to be trained for them to be able to really get to a point where I could trust them to start working here in the studio as an artist. The only thing with tattooing though is that you won't be able to make money until you're actually at a position that you can start tattooing.
Yeah.
That's just one of the downsides to the whole process. Which that's where a lot of apprentices kind of fall short in the whole idea, because they think that when they're an apprentice they could just work in a shop and tattoo right away. But that's really not the whole point of being an apprentice. Most shops you would have to go through the whole thing for like at least 3 years.
Yes, that's pretty much like college.
Yeah.
But for tattooing, yeah. would you say the field is? Would you say it's highly competitive and a demanding field where there's not that many good tattoo artists, or in general?
There's a lot of good artists out there, like people that I would trust to tattoo me, in the sense of the whole, like, to better explain it. It's a matter of finding your specialty, finding that specific thing that you want to do most when you're tattooing, and when you figure that out as an artist, I would say like it would jumpstart your whole career, rather than just tattooing anything right off the bat, which most artists would start off like that, and if you keep on that path, you're basically gonna blend in the industry, but not stand out. You know? So you want to stand out.
So you want to specialize.
You want to find a specialty, regardless if it's a specialty that everyone else is doing in their own right and in their own way, in their own style, or something that people could say that, oh, this person is good at specific things like this. So when you have something that you could pretty much go for any day, then it's easier for you to kind of figure out how to really build your career off of that.
Yeah.
Like when you're just dabbling into art, like you just want to draw, you just want to paint, you just want to do things. Even without talking about tattooing, every person have their own style to pretty much work around with already, even through that specific media or medium, and eventually transition into something that you're already known for what you pretty much do on a daily basis. Same as tattooing. Like for me, I started like dabbling with everything else, and then eventually when I realized that cover-ups was one of the things that was very interesting for me, I started focusing on cover-ups, and that's what became my niche into the industry. And to be able to do that, I have to understand specific things, like how the skin works, for example, how the science of the process has to go with it, the equipment I use has to go with it. Now it becomes a little bit more extra specific towards those little process, and in a way there's a lot of science in the process that I have to apply, not rather than just tattooing. Now I'm focusing more on dealing with how to make sure the skin actually takes in the process that I did, rather than just push it out right off as it heals. So those little things I have to really tackle and understand first before calling my process my specialty. The whole cover-up process as my specialty. Like now I could pretty much cover up anything without even worrying about if it's gonna be effective or not. But it took me years to be able to really understand all those little details, and I'm still learning. Like if you're an artist, you're in a constant learning curve, or a constant learning journey, lack of a better word. You could never be just specifically learn everything already. Like any other profession, you have to build that discipline, and that discipline has to be carried over on a daily basis for you to be able to kind of understand the how you value your craft, or how you value the things that you learn and apply it on a daily basis. That's how much people will value you. Of course, here and there you'll get one of those people that they don't really care about other people's workflow or work process. But then in most cases, when people start seeing how much you really value the process, they'll start working with your process. And that goes in anything. It doesn't have to be just tattooing. It's the whole perspective of being a professional.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in a country that if you don't have an office job, or if you didn't go to college or graduate college, whatever job you have is not valued as much. Like when people start working in restaurants and stuff like that, like over there in the Philippines, like it's not really like it's just a job,
Yeah.
But over here, like they're professional, not just degrees, but trainings that would pretty much make you fit in any type of like trade jobs.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of difference in how how you think of a job. So if you respect your income generating activities, then people will also end up respecting that the way you see it.
Yeah.
And then it takes time for you to be able to do that. And at that point, you just have to be consistent with it. And that's where a lot of apprentices end up failing with the whole idea of being a artist in general, when they're not consistent with the little things that they have to do for themselves, for the studio.
And so, what does your wife do by any chance? I saw her. I thought she was a tattoo artist at first. I was like, oh wait, she's not tattooing. I don't know what she's doing.
She's actually tattooing.
Oh, she was?
Yeah.
Oh.
The process is called microblading. So that's mostly for women who want to make adjustments on their eyebrows. So the whole process is basically making sure that their eyebrows are shaped up in a certain way, and the whole process would last a good 2 years. So in that sense, they don't have to worry about waking up in the morning and doing their eyebrows and then go to work, because they basically just wake up and go to work right away with those types of process in play. The microblading process, and it's not a permanent eyebrow fix, because in a way, when people get older, your face would start to sag, and that's where it comes into play most especially, because when your eyebrows are permanently fixed to that specific shape and angle, you're gonna look like droopy,
Yeah.
but then again, with the microblading process, you're able to make adjustments on the eyebrows and make sure that you still have that option to reset the eyebrow to a specific angle, to a specific structure of how your face is after like 10 years. And you could still make that adjustment.
And so that's it? She just does the microblading thing and...
She does a few other tattoo processes, like the lip tattoo, and also the eyeliner.
Oh, so it's the same thing. It's like shaping, kind of.
Yeah, the shape.
Giving structure instead of makeup,
Yeah.
That's cool.
Right now she's focusing on that. she still needs to find time to do her. She's actually a nurse, but she still needs to go through the whole licensing thing.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I know. So right now, because of the baby, she has to be more focused on just making sure that she's not losing time with her daughter as well.
Yeah.
So in between, at least she's able to find time to work here in the studio.
Yeah, that's cool. You ever thought about going into cosmetic surgery?
Not so much into that because it's a different science,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely is something that it's a completely different industry in a way. That's aesthetic in a whole new different level.
Hello? Hi. You are? Oh, you gotta go searching. Just do some laps, that's it. Oh, the Michaels? Yeah, they're not gonna stay too long, yeah. Yeah, because they'll tell you after a while, that's why, so don't stay there all day. I don't know. Nothing. Yeah, a little bit. Hmm? Good. Same old, same old. Mm-hmm. Alright, just touch me in your hair, okay? Why? No, it's just you're not. You're not. You're not talking. You're just moving. Okay. Alright. What? No, it's next to the gym. You see a door. Look.